today we will talk about self-coaching and self-organized teams. The name of the topic is From Self-Coaching Individuals to Self-Managing Teams. And I hope that this topic is interesting to you guys. It's extremely interesting to me, and I really cannot wait to hear what Karl prepared for us. For you who are not, who didn't have a chance to meet Karl and me, here with us we have also Yasmina, Bilya, and Maya from Agile Humans. Karl is CEO of Agile Humans UK. He's also a Scrum expert, and he uses open space technology, Scrum and Kanban methodologies. He's also a course leader for innovative programs such as MA Education Program, Learning in Digital Age, and he has several ICT and education related evaluation projects. He will tell you a little bit more about this topic in a minute. My name is Marija Nikolic. I'm also Agile trainer in Agile Humans and a Scrum Master in a company called Smith Micro. So for the beginning, Karl, do you want to tell us a little bit about the topic and what have you prepared for us?
Sure. Yeah, so thanks for inviting me to speak tonight. I've got a short presentation with a few interactions, some games, and it's mainly around the topic of self-organization and how that works, which has been part of my study for the past year, and looking at various aspects of self-organization, because it's always a big thing in Agile. And we talk about it a lot, but we don't really know how it works and how we might develop it within teams, and also within yourself, I guess. And also the Scrum guide has recently changed to talk more about self-management than self-organization. So it's what's the difference, and is there a difference, and some things for us to do to think about that.
Yeah, maybe I missed that in introduction. Maybe it would be interesting for people to know also that you are basically interested in Scrum Beyond Software, and that you are you have a huge initiatives and success in implementing various Agile techniques in education. So that is also probably something that we will talk about today.
Yeah, I don't really use Scrum in software very much, although I have worked with because I worked at a university in my day job. So I have worked with our IT teams, but mostly I use Scrum and Agile for in research projects and education, and in teaching and learning, and in the development of products, transferring universities' knowledge into external products, basically. So there's a lot of things. At the moment, we're looking at the health service because we have a big problem in the hospitals at the moment, obviously, with people moving out of hospital, so discharge, so the flow of patients through a hospital. So we've started to work with a local hospital on how we can apply Agile to hospitals as well. So it's very interesting. Yeah. That's why Agile is so great, because it goes across several things. Although I think people at work are fed up of me talking about Agile. But the other week I was doing something on research projects with the research teams, with the professors, about how they can use Agile in preparing their research projects, which was interesting. And it's interesting to get that crossover between, obviously, IT professionals and professionals in other areas.
Yes, thanks, Karl. So maybe we can start.
Sure, yeah. So I'm going to share the screen. We've also got a link in the chat. And I'll be asking you to respond in the chat, but that's the link to Jamboard. I don't know if you're familiar with Jamboard, but we'll use that a little bit.
I'm not, obviously.
I'll let you know when we're going to use it. So
it's in chat.
I'm going to talk a bit, then stop, and and then ask you a few questions, and maybe Maria can help with that as well. And so I'm going to, without further ado, just share my screen and make a start, because I'm sure we've all had a busy day, and this is the icing on the cake of your day, if you like. Maybe.
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully, yeah. So that's my beautiful title slide. I hope you can see it. Can everyone see that? So obviously, are you experienced Jimi Hendrix? Are you self-organized? Is the question today and tonight. So I'd just like you to drop an emoji into the chat. What emoji are you feeling right now? Just drop an emoji into the chat box for me, and let's see what we've got. Mostly smiles, which is great. Yeah, excellent. Okay. This is a little technique we use in, because I like to be meta and reflective. So it's a little technique we've started using because we're doing a lot of work with people in Hong Kong. And people in Hong Kong, they don't really like to express themselves very much. So we decided to use the chat to get people to engage through the chat. But hopefully you guys will talk a lot more than the people in Hong Kong. Okay, now I've lost my share. Let me try again. There we are. Okay, so back to this. Thanks for that. So hopefully everyone's feeling good. So the questions we're going to look at today to discuss what is self-organization? Self-organization versus self-management. The Agile love affair with self-organization. We talk about it a lot, and it's like the holy grail that we're trying to look for. The role of human and non-human agency in self-organization. So we're going to talk a bit about agency. How does Scrum develop self-organization? People in teams, how does that work? Goals, purposes, and alignment, how that contributes to self-organization, and how you can develop the phenomena of self-organization within your work and within your life and relationships and the world and everything. Okay, so all good. So self-organization versus self-management in Scrum. So in 2017, the Scrum Guide said self-organizing teams choose how best to accomplish their work rather than being directed by others outside of the team. And then in 2020, they changed that to they are also self-managing, meaning they internally decide who does what, when and how. So in that movement from 2017, where it just says they choose how they do it, to 2020, they're also self-managing, meaning they internally decide who does what, when and how. Does that, do you think, give them more or less control for the team? What do people think?
And while we are waiting people to to jump in, I would say definitely more control. But Karl, what do you think? Why did they completely abandon the idea of self-organizing? Isn't that a part of self-managing? They said self-managing, but why do we want to avoid now this self-organizing?
I think they thought that self-organized, it wasn't really self-organization, it was just self-managing, because self-organization is at the final end of a continuum, if you like. It's more free, it's not as controlled. So I think what they were doing was they were saying there's some self-organization, but by all definitions of self-organization, it's not self-organization, it's just allowing people to manage a little bit of the project. So I think the 2020 definition gives them more control over, it gives them more agency, if you like, control, more agency, and gives them more responsibility to do more in terms of self-management. So I think they thought it was self-organization, but by all definitions of self-organization, it wasn't really self-organization. It was just, but we'll consider that.
Yes. Someone should probably mute, unless you want to talk about self-organization or self-management. Okay, Karl, let's hear the difference. I think that we are all maybe a bit confused.
Get the difference and decide what. Yeah, so more control is a good answer. Yeah, more control. I see people putting that in the chat, which is great. Okay, so this was self-organization as the holy grail of Scrum, really. So Ken Swaber calls it a breath of fresh air, and Jeff Sutherland calls it a secret sauce. So it's always not really defined. It's just something that happens, which is a good, and it does happen. We know it happens. You know, we feel it when it does happen in a good team. But self-organization really is a natural process. Any system can do it. It's what any system can do, and it can be created through something called socio-technical engineering of any system. And it's about creating order from chaos. So we can engineer our workplace, the things that happen in it, to create self-organization. The only difficulty with that is the structures of the organization that sit around it. So for true self-organization to take place, you really need a very liberal, high trust culture for that to occur. And so it's a continuum from self-management to true self-organization. And that's quite important in terms of the culture of the organization and how you create self-organization. But it's not a new thing. Self-organization, you know, it occurs in natural systems. You provide order out of chaos. The anarchists in Barcelona used it, and Ward's definition of self-organization is that given a common need, so this is an important part, given a common need, a collection of people will, by trial and error, by improvisation and experiment, evolve order out of chaos. So this sounds a little bit like the ideal of Scrum, okay, the idealist kind of thing, and we know that every implementation of Scrum is different and depends on the culture you put it into. But in an ideal world, you know, what we'd like, that sounds a little bit like Scrum. And then the other part is mission command, which is about was sort of used in World War II, but it's still used today in NATO, and that's about people on the ground are allowed to react to the situation, but they still follow the mission. They're still working towards the mission, which sounds a little bit like the product vision in Scrum, okay? But how you get there is up to the Scrum team. So all of these things have happened before, and actually, I think it's Ken Schwaber who was in the US forces. So I think a lot of his ideas of Scrum came from the idea of mission command of the US forces. And there are lots of similarities between it. So now we're going to play a game. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. So we're going to investigate the idea of self-organization and self-management. So my share is going to stop. This won't take very long. Where am I? Stop share. Stop. Good. Okay, so you need to turn on your cameras for this, if that's possible. If you haven't turned on your camera, if you can turn on your camera, turn on your camera. And has anyone played the chairs game before? Anyone played the chairs game? Yeah.
Seems not.
Well, we're going to play the chairs game online, okay? And the chairs game is used in Scrum to illustrate self-organization. So we're just going to play it, and then we're going to decide if it's actually self-organization or if it's self-management. Okay. So to do this, you need to stand up. You can do it without your cameras on, but you need to stand up to do it. So this is how, if you remember how it works. So I'm going to give you 40 seconds, okay? But you need to stand up. Stand up.
Of us.
I'm sorry, I can't. I broke my leg, so.
Okay, if you've hurt your leg, don't stand up. Don't take part, just watch. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm the manager, okay? I'm the manager here. You must do what I tell you to do, okay? So I'm going to give you instructions. I'm going to tell you to step. You can only take one step at a time. These are the rules. You can only take one step at a time, and I'm going to tell you to step forward. So have a little practice. Step forward, step back, step left, step right, step left. Oh, you've got it. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to count how many steps you do in 40 seconds. Okay, and the alarm's going to go off when I finish. Okay, so are you ready? I'm going to start now. So, okay, step forward, step back, step forward, step back, step left, step right, step left, step right, step forward, step back, step forward, step back, step back, step back, step back, step back.
My room is not big enough.
Step back, step back, step forward, step forward, step forward, step right, step left, 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 step left. Okay, that's time up, so you can relax.
Luckily, I have sports clothes, you know.
Relax.
I was not counting on exercise.
Right, and what we do with this now, we say that you might have found some obstacles, and they're like the blockers to your work and things like that. Okay, you might have just found some little blockers and obstacles. Oh, I've got my thing on. Right, so how many did you do? How many steps?
Well, I counted until 22.
22.
So after that, you were too fast.
30, 29, 30, yes. 31 to 32, very good. Okay, yeah, 19, 30-ish, lovely. Okay, so right, so that was me as the manager and me in charge, telling you what to do and all the rest of it. So this time we're going to do it again, 40 seconds, but this time you're going to do the steps yourself and count them yourself. Okay, so the rules are you can only do one step at a time, but you can do that in any way you like. If you want to dance, if you want to, whatever you want to do, twirl around, you can do that. 40 seconds, but count how many steps you do. Okay, ready? Good. So 40 seconds starting now. Oh, very good improvisation. Yes, I love the dancing. The dancing's looking great.
Well, more efficient and enjoying more, like in self-organization.
Okay, stop. Okay, this time, how many steps?
65.
Should be more.
Well, I'm not in
No, I mean, it should be more than last time. I don't mean it should be 73 while dancing salsa. That's excellent. Yes, very good. Lovely. All right. So you should have done more than the other time. So, and why we use this exercise is to illustrate that people, when they manage themselves or when they self-organize, they choose how they do it, as in Scrum, we get an increase in productivity, okay? Because you can do it yourself. So is that self-management or is it self-organization? Maria, what do you think?
Question for me, self-organization, because we didn't choose the We chosen how will we do it, right? But the basic rules were defined. So
yeah, I would say it's what do other people think? Self-management. Some in the chat, self-management. Self-management. Okay, so why self-management? Why is it self-management and not self-organization? Because it has, as Maria said, it's got quite a few things of self-organization. It's got a goal. It's got an imperative, a time imperative. These are the three things of the key things for self-organization. You've got an imperative, you've got a goal, and you have some rules, one step at a time. So the system is chosen for you. Yeah, you make the rules inside the bit that you did. Yeah, but the structure and everything and what you've got to do is formed outside. So it's really self-management rather than self-organization. You've got a little bit of self-organization in the middle where you're allowed to do something. Okay, this is why Scrum likes self-organization, because you feel free, but you're still controlled by the business. See what I mean? So you're being productive. So it's not really true self-organization. Yeah.
yeah, we have a comment. It's quite different when you do not have limits. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say one more thing. It's quite different when you know what you should do exactly, you know.
Yeah. These are not bad. It's not good or bad. Okay. We need both things to balance. Okay. They're not good or bad things. Because a business needs people to, work towards the goals of the business, don't they? So somewhere the goals of the business and the products and everything has to be set. But how you do the work is the choice of the team, yeah, which is the Scrum thing. Okay, so all right, let's move on a little bit. So we've answered these questions: self-managed or self-organized. What's the key factor? Is the next question. So what's the key factor there? It's probably a difficult question because it's a bit open-ended. So the real thing about that is how much control you've got. How much control do you have? Okay. In the first one, you have very little control. In the second one, you have more control. So it's this continuum of control, how much control you've got, how much autonomy you've got. Yeah, good word. How much autonomy you've got, and that continuum between being controlled or being managed and managing yourself, and then self-organizing yourself or organizing the self. So it's this long continuum of agency. Okay, how much agency have you got in the process? Okay, so share the screen. I hope this is the right one. Okay. So key factor is control. So in the chat box again now, where is your current work on this chart? This is Hackman's chart about self-management, self-managing teams. So where are you on this chart? Are you A, B, C, or D at the moment in your current job? Are you here? Are you in a manager-led team? So the purple bit is all the team's responsibility. What's the team's responsibility and what is management responsibility? Are you in a self-managing team, B? Are you in a self-designing team that does all of these things? Or are you in a self-governing team which does everything? So where are you in that there? And everyone will be in different places.
Yeah, I assume that there will be very few people in C and D, and if we have them, I would really like to hear from them.
Yeah, a lot of A's.
Oh, we have C.
A going very slow to
Right.
B. Yeah, and this is a good way of thinking about where you are in an agile implementation as well. You know, do you have all these things, and how do you get from A to D? If you want to go from A to D, it might not be the best model for your organization. You might want to stay at A. It depends. But some people are in A, but they think they're in D. Okay, they say they're in D, but they're really still in A. In Agile sometimes in implementations. So where I work, sometimes we're in D when we're doing research projects and nobody cares what we do. But then when we do things for the faculty, we're probably over in A. Most of the university is A, basically, or maybe B. But they're trying to make us do more of C. So it's quite an interesting way of looking at things. So this next bit is the things you need for self-organization to take place. And this is from Brandt's triangle of self-organization. And this is pretty much, I've looked at lots of, over the last year or so, I've looked at lots of different instances of self-organization. And these things seem to come up all the time. So the goal or purpose is fundamental. So the whole thing. So what's the goal? What's the purpose? Which is what's the thing that draws people together, that builds the impetus for people to do things. There's always a scaffold or a framework. So the rules, guiding principles, beliefs, which if you think about it, that's the Scrum framework, sits around it. And then on the other side, there's the imperative, the tension, or the motivation. So is there something driving it? Okay, so that could be as much as we really believe in the product, or I don't want to let my friends down, or I really like it, I enjoy working in this team, or it might be if we get this finished, we get a bonus, you know. So, or we've only got a certain amount of time to save the world and make a vaccine and all that kind of thing. So, and interestingly enough, a lot of the companies in the UK that started making respirators in the first lockdown, they started making respirators, and there was this thing on the radio where they all started saying, well, we've done so much in 2 months, we've done more in 2 months than we would normally. This would take us 3 years to do, because they dropped all the barriers and started working together, Scrum like, you know, in a swarm to fix something, because of the goal or the purpose, and because of the imperative, the thing to do. Yeah. And that's, it's amazing what you can do when you've got a driving force. Okay, but the problem obviously for agile implementations is people's goals are different, and not everybody doesn't share the goal or purpose. And probably the easiest space, cultural space to work in for self-organization is probably the startup, where everyone's on an equal footing, where everyone's trying to, you know, work for the same thing. In a more established company, it might be more difficult, and we might get fixated on tasks and we forget about Scrum and the rules and the reason why we're doing things, and we're just doing our day-to-day stuff. I really like the triangle of self-organization. It fits to most things that we do, and if you can use that as a template to see, have I got all of those things going on, and if I have, is everyone connected to them? And so, as we know in Scrum, the people over processes is a really important thing. Yeah, that we need to focus on the human element, and agile humans, I guess, the human element behind all the mechanisms and processes. Yeah, cool. And I know, yeah, some individuals did it too, as well as companies. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so just moving on a little bit. So one of my big things is Scrum based on Anarchy? Is the ultimate realization of Scrum, is it an anarchic system? Okay, so which is a bit of a misnomer, really, because lots of people think of Anarchy as no organization, but Anarchy is quite organized in a way. So is Scrum an anarchist thing? And if you look at anarchist organization, it's voluntary. So in Scrum, we're supposed to commit, aren't we? We're supposed to commit to doing things. We're not supposed to be told to do things. So in a way, we have that aspect, voluntary. It's functional, we get things done. But it's also temporary. So teams form and then they fall apart. They form for a purpose, then they stop. But in some of the literature, it says we should aim for stability with teams. Okay, so that's another thing. There's a bit of a contradiction in the whole thing. So the literature, some of the literature tells us in self-organization that things come together and then they fall apart. Once the purpose has disappeared, they fall apart again. But in other literature, it says to get really high functioning teams, we need stability. So the question is, how do we form that stability? And how do we then, on the other hand, deal with things falling apart and stopping working and not functioning very well? How do we maintain that high performance is the key thing. Okay, so what powers self-organization? It's all about control and agency. So human agency, a good source of quotes on human agency is, among the mechanisms of personal agency, none is more central or pervasive than people's beliefs in their capability to exercise some measure of control over their own functioning and own environmental events. So you've got to ensure that people have agency and are agentic, and agency is key to self-organization, and I would argue it's key to Agile as well. So the notions of agency, there are 4 principles. So intentionality, planning, forethought, goal setting, self-reactiveness, reacting to developments and ensuring plans are enacted and achieved through self-regulatory behavior, and then reflectiveness, how are we doing? And if you think about Agile, the system of Agile, the system of Scrum has all of these things in it, okay? So I would argue that Scrum itself is an agentic mechanism. It's something that allows people to have more agency. And it's just the implementation of it that if you implement it towards its true end, this will occur. So my next question, and we're going to go to Jamboard now, is which parts of the Scrum framework are most valuable for developing self-organization? So I'd just like you to go to the Jamboard and put some dots on the Jamboard where you think the most valuable bits are in the Scrum framework for developing self-organization. So let's see if that works. It's always a shot in the dark, really. So I'm going to go to the Jamboard and we can share that. The link's in the chat. Where is my Jamboard?
Do you want me to put the link again?
Yeah, if you put the link again, that would be good. Let me just escape out of this and then I'll find it. Okay. Zoom. Back to share. There we are. Oh, there we are. Okay. Right, someone's drawing lines, that's good. Nice big circle.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Put that back in there so we've got our things lined up. Someone's really good at drawing circles. So are we saying all of it? Which is the most value, do we think? Cool. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so thanks for that. I noticed that you had lots of things everywhere around everything. So I think if you think about the triangle, you can have a goal here. I guess there's a goal here, a goal here, agency, released. Where's our agency? Agency, agency, some agency there. Maybe some agency over here somewhere. And I love the way you'd circled the product vision, because but I think there's a variety of goals, really, around that in different places. And the key thing, the sprint, yeah. Why the sprint? So why the sprint?
So we can get potentially the deployable product increment regularly.
Yeah, but is that where the self-organization occurs? So we have the self-organization is predicated on the goals. So what are the yeah, so that's responding to change. Yeah, the obstacles may occur. You need to act fast to get over it. So that would bring people together. So it's any point in the Scrum framework where people are brought together to solve a problem, or there's a goal, and also the other idea of agency occurring through the reflection on work that's done. So all of the whole of the Scrum framework is about developing agency. Some of it has more than it, but the key thing is, how do you connect people to those goals? So one of the problems might be that we don't really do enough about the sprint goal. We don't really connect people to the product vision. So not everybody's on board with it. So they go through their tasks day by day. So the key thing is, how do you motivate people to do that is an issue around that. Okay, so thanks for doing that. And we'll just continue a bit further. Okay, so there's another type of agency to consider, is this idea of agency freedom. So this is the freedom to choose a particular option. So on the road to true self-organization, in any given situation, this is about what can an individual be and what can they do, and what are the environmental constraints that stop us from being and doing things that we value. So you can have a resource and you have the capability to, like a bicycle, and you have the capability to ride around, and the functioning, the thing that's converted into is riding around, and then the utility is happiness. However, those resources don't fall the same to everybody. So some people will not be able to ride around maybe for cultural reasons, or maybe they don't know how to do something, and so then they won't be able to achieve that functioning. So the idea of this idea of agency freedom is about how many options do you have to follow in a particular situation, and the fewer options you have, the worse it gets in a way, in terms of being able to realize your full potential. And so the next thing I'd like you to do is on the Jamboard again, when were you last frustrated at work, and what was it that frustrated you? Okay. When were you last frustrated at work, and what was it that frustrated you?
So we are using a next frame, right?
Yeah, next screen. Yeah.
Next screen. Mm-hmm.
To the next screen. Oops. Yeah, so you can use either the text tool, or you could use a sticky note. Yeah, but what was the cause of your frustration? What was it about?
Missing resources.
You see what?
Missing testers to
Right.
finish testing of our products. So basically, somebody steal my resources. So this is
Right.
the
Okay, so someone stole your resources. So that's a good one. Yeah, so someone stole your resources. Okay, so you'll note that if we go on to, is there any more? Fellow colleague didn't what? Yes, that's really annoying when someone doesn't respond to emails. People don't listen. Yeah, why didn't they listen to you? They don't follow your instructions. All of these things. Okay, it's a nice line. Well done. It's a nice contribution. Okay, any more? Okay. Unsustainable pace. Right. Okay. And who sets the pace? This is the question. Okay. Who sets the pace? And wrong expectations. Right. Okay. So now we're getting somewhere. Colleagues avoiding basic guidelines for task management and making unnecessary work for others. Yes, some people do not read. This is much better. Come on, let it all out. All your frustrations need to come out onto this page. Yeah, people that I've got another one. People saying one thing and then expecting something different. No real commitment, yeah, because they're not engaged with the self-organization. They're not engaged with the goal. No real commitment. When someone thinks with the old methods, yeah, I love you people. I'm going to turn the light on. It's gone dark. It's gone dark. Fellow colleague, yeah, okay. Fake promises, not respecting agreed things. Yeah, that's like mine. When someone think, some people do not really saying one thing and doing another.
Oh, I like this one. Management changed process. Try something out. We had no idea what's the goal, purpose of the change.
Yeah, you can see where that happens in a football team. They lose 10-0. when the manager changes the formation but hasn't told them.
This one is very good.
Yeah, not providing human resources for teams that are much needed, lasting for months, even though I've been putting this out for months as well. Yeah. People don't want change, they're scared. Yes, it's true, people don't like change, even though we're working in an agile environment where, you know, responding to change or following a plan. We've got a big restructure coming at work, and everyone's. I was really annoyed about it, but then I realised, well, if I'm always talking about agile, I should be able to respond to that change. Right.
And listen to this one: an obligation to protect the company's reputation at all costs, even to tell a lie. Yeah. How can you save reputation by telling lie? That's really immature, I would say.
That's a cultural thing, isn't it? In
yeah.
business, and this is something that you should reflect on yourself, about goals and purposes and your own goals and purposes. I know it's difficult at the moment with the jobs and everything, but you've got to think, well, am I in the right place? Am I in the right company for my, my self-respect or my self-enhancement? Yeah, these are great. Thank you. Lovely.
Yeah, we are talking about company's goals and personal goals and aligning those things. But now we are talking about values. We are.
Yeah. But I doubt that company goals is to lying to their customers. So this is just a translation of someone from upper management. That you must lie, because I don't think that any company can put it like this. So every time we have some kind lost in translation. So I understand that.
So the next thing then, you see, where would they fit? Where would these things fit on this quadrant? So if I took one of mine, for example, if I take that one and I just, I want to copy it. So see if I can copy that. If I can paste it in here. Yeah. So agency freedom is about choice. What you can, what options do you have to do things about it, or when you were told what to do, and they're going to come. And was it really annoying, or did it make me happy? I was sort of, when I was told, it made no sense to me. It doesn't annoy, because I'm older. It doesn't annoy me that much these days. I just think, oh, hey, well.
Yes, me too.
So I put it about here, maybe about here. Yeah, but I haven't got much free. I haven't got much. Well, I could change it because I could ignore it, and then I could get sacked. But I could just stay here. Yeah. So a lot of these will, because you've got less control, which is about, you've got more management going on than you think. Okay, because you're not in control of resources and you're not in control of management processes. You're at the left side, the A side of the continuum of teams and organizations. Yeah. So these things, this is why they sit, most of them are going to sit down here. Okay. I'd just like you to think about some things. What things do you have control over? Is there anything you do have control over? Not in work, just in life or anything. What do you have choices about?
They say usually people are self-organized until they start working. They choose their college, they choose who they will marry, when they will have kids. They can choose everything, but when they start working, now someone has to tell us what to do.
Even here, I'm thinking when I go to bed, I've got a lot of choice about when I go to bed, but I haven't, because I have to go to bed when my wife goes to bed. Because if I don't, she'll wake me up when she comes to bed, right? Or she'll watch TV and I'll hear the TV and I won't be able to sleep alone. So it's sort of about there, really. So I'm about here when I go to bed, which is annoying me a little bit. So.
Well, actually, you are avoiding obstacles, so it's not like you are told to go to bed in that time.
There's something coming down the other side. Okay.
You can self-organize yourself or self-manage and bought something, you know, ear
Earplugs,
protection
yeah.
or something like that.
There's something else around this, you know, that we never work singularly. Okay, there's always a network around us or an environment around us that's either enabling us or constraining us. Okay, so this is another layer on top of the self-organization thing. Yeah. When I chose to attend the meetup, yes. So where's that going to go? Over there? Yeah. Cool. Good. Yeah. So that's a choice. Yeah. When you choose to do something, like when you choose to do a sport or an activity you like, you're exercising your agency freedom. But that depends on, you know, for example, I do a lot of rowing, so that depends on how much money I've got. Have I got money to pay the club fees? You know, have I got the time to do it as well? So I may have other constraints. How am I able to realize my ability to do that? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the presentation and just about try and when I choose to change the company, yeah, when I tell the boss to go away, then yeah, you've got a lot of freedom then for a while until other things.
Until you get to another place, right?
Yeah, or until you go home and say, guess what? I've just left my job. Great, fantastic.
But why it is on that side?
Why what? This?
When I choose to change the company, it should be in the freedom side.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
And to choose to attend meetup as well.
Yeah. Have you been told to attend the meetup? Have you been told?
No, you will be, you know, you will was informed that there is a meetup, but you will choose to attend or not to attend. Nobody force you or tell you you must go to this meetup. So I don't see this as a told what to do.
No, this isn't told what to do. That, well, yeah, that's somewhere in between. So the person who put when I chose to attend the meetup, have you been told to attend the meetup, or was it a free choice? This one.
Well,
it's usually free choice. Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be further over there.
It's a free time, so
yeah.
I'm not sure that someone can tell you, oh, actually, if you have a wife like that, why not?
Right. Okay. So let's just finish up, and then we'll carry on. There. Okay. So share screen. Right, so another form of agency, okay, so that's three forms of agency: human agency, agency freedom, okay, is another conceptualization of agency, and this is the final one that I'm going to talk about tonight. So agency is a network effect, okay, and this comes from actor network theory, and that talks about you have to think about a wider view, a system view, okay, which is an agile thing, thinking about the whole system. So, and a system is comprised of human and non-human actors, and they're always assembled for a common purpose. So we could call the Scrum framework is a non-human actor. The people that work within it are actors too, okay? And to join together to produce the product, we align our own individual goals towards that purpose, and sometimes we modify them as a result. So you might say that you know, I'm working towards developing this product not because I love the product, right? That might not be my goal. My goal might be, my personal goal might be because I want to get more experience in using a particular piece of coding or whatever. Or it might be that if I do well in this role, I can become a Scrum Master. Or if I do well in this role, I might be able to get out of this bloody company and go and work somewhere else. Okay. So you've always got to consider what people's individual goals are. And this is where I think where your HR thing comes in, your human resources thing, and how you deal with people and the people over processes. So why are people working for you doing that thing? Okay, and it's not always about the product and the product vision and the goal. And what we've got to try and do is get this alignment, and management, I suppose, is about alignment of company goals, product vision, and people's goals, so that we can get that self-management, self-organization to occur. But when you do that, you can't always be sure what will happen. If you give people freedom, you can't really be sure what's going to happen, basically. And also that the network will hold together or break apart. So networks that hold together are strange things, okay? There are strange reasons why they hold together. There might be power relationships that are going on. And normally it's more likely that networks will fall apart and groups of things will fall apart and stay together. Okay, so I'm getting towards the end. So the takeaways for this, really. Sorry, got up one. So the idea is then to think about how do you release and develop agency within the parameters that you have, and realize that this is a continuum. And you're trying to working towards a true self-organizing team or a true self-managing team is difficult, and it depends on the culture of the organization. But there are little triggers and levers that you can use, like the product vision, like realistic retrospectives about how we're working together, and like finding out about what people's goals are and trying to progress them in their goal. Even if they're not the most motivated of people, try and get them to align their own personal goals with the goals of the products you're trying to develop. So work to align individual and company aspirations and goals. How you do that? Probably by talking to people and actually finding out about them. And sometimes it's about advising people that they should go and do something else. Because if it's not for them, they're not realizing their goals. Go and do what you really want to do, because we've only got one life, basically. So a lot of us drift. We drift around on this ocean of management. I do. I have been doing. And then if you want to see someone who's really goal driven, talk to the Serbian boss of Agile Humans. My goodness, Miss Yasmina. Talk to her. Goal, goal, goal. So it's scary. She's so goal driven. Realize that teams need freedom to respond to change, situated action. They need that space to be able to work things out for themselves, but really do it. Don't just talk about it. Don't just read the Scrum manual. Is it really happening? Have they got the freedom? Have they got control over those resources? And I think the Scrum guide is trying to move people along towards that, having more control over stuff. I think that's the purpose of the change. And teams are dynamic. This is all dynamic. You can't just think, oh, that team's fixed. The team needs constant fluffing and their auras and all the rest of it. So teams are dynamic. Work should be dynamic. Things fall apart. And stability is unnatural, and it won't last. It's great when you have it, but it won't last. So be aware that it won't last. Sometimes you have to disband a team and put them together in a different configuration. So give them new impetus. Keep it fresh. And the final one then is, can you apply this for humans in your life and work? How do you organize yourself? Okay. The one thing you can organize is yourself, okay? And I don't mean organize as in make sure you do things in the right order and make the beds on time or go shopping. I mean, have you organized where you're going and what your goals are? Or are you just drifting on a sea managed by the tide? So are you being managed, or are you taking control of your own destiny? And I know that sounds a bit, West Coast American, but these are things to think about. Consider the wider view. So yeah, be present, and develop a wider view. Okay, be present, look at where you are. Look, every so often, just take an hour or so to think, well, where am I? How does that work? Why is this happening? You know, what are the forces that are arraying against me? What forces are on my side? How can I make a difference here? Can I re-engineer my life so that things go more my way? Set a goal and create yourself an actor network. Who's on your side? Who's going to help you in your career or where you want to go, or with your life, or with learning a new skill? How does that work? You know, think of it as a network of assets. So an actor network can be the things on your desk. So the things that facilitate this, I've got my Mac, I've got my phone, I've got my mouse, I've got a piece of paper that I'm writing things down on. That's my little ontology there, my little thing that enables me to do this. And that can expand and expand and expand. So align life and goals. So set a goal, create yourself an actor network, align life and your goals, but be careful because it may not turn out as planned. And there, on that note, I leave you with some Serbian. Oh, with some Serbian, see?
Thank you, Karl.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this. Really inspiring, at least for me. Let's hear some questions.
Okay, I have one question.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Karl, can you just please say hvala vam in Serbian?
Hvala vam.
Once again, please.
Hvala vam.
Very good.
Karl has been in Serbia many times. I don't know.
I was saying at the start, I don't know any Serbian because Maya said there were lots of people from Egypt coming. So I know more Arabic than I do Serbian, even though I've been coming to Serbia for longer than I've been going to the Middle East. So I know more Arabic. So Tamam is Arabic, Mumtaz is Arabic. Avalavam, yeah. I can't say the other bit. I can't say questions. Neko, is it Neko?
Yes.
Neko, Pitanya. Pitanya. Oh, okay. See.
Not bad.
One question. The latest that you explaining is about something about teams are changing and they are not constant. And one of the Agile postulates are that we must have, you know, in the Scrum, we must have a dedicated team, you know. So basically the team who is working, you know, together in several iterations, so you can calculate velocity and etc. etc. How it is, you know, in your latest, you know, talking about changing teams and etc. So,
well, I just think that's in relation to a self-organizing team, because the essence of a self-organizing team is that they come together to solve a problem, and they focus on that goal and that problem. And when that problem's over, they may break apart. But obviously, in an organization, you need more stability.
yes.
But then you've got to think about what's causing that stability. So what's causing that stability is your need to look at, you know, velocity and improving and improving and improving.
Yes, yes.
But at some point they'll stop improving.
Yes.
They'll reach their thing, as you know, they'll reach their velocity, or they'll get bored, or they'll think, oh, really, another, the same again. So that's that. They come together, they fall apart, and it's just when they fall apart and how long can they be sustained for. I think you've got to know when to. It's like a football team. It's like, you know, when do you break up that successful team and make a new team?
When they can't, you know, play together, you know, they are, you know, there is a discordance in the team, or some of the football players are old and can't run, you know, or something like that.
They lack motivation, or
yes.
Liverpool at the moment, last year they couldn't stop winning. At the moment they can't win, and they keep losing. But it's probably exhaustion. It's probably just tiredness.
We have a very nice question from Georgia in chat. How to motivate the team to self-manage and organize? And this is something also that I wanted to ask you, Karl. So you said when we are talking about things, what to do, how to do, from which perspective do you think that it should be a general, postulate of the organization, whether it should be management or a role of a Scrum Master, product owner, everyone in the team? So how to motivate, and who is doing that?
Well, I think it's got to be from the management down, because the management people need to take the risk that's involved in self-organization. Because if you just go to self-organization rather than self-management and control, and you've got a little bit of self-organization in the middle, which gives you productivity, and everyone's working, in Scrum because we all like working together and it's great. Why would you change that? If your productivity is going up and up and up, why would you change that to let your team be self-organized? And I get the point about how do you motivate a team to be self-organized, because most individuals don't want to be self-organized, because it's more difficult to be self-organized. There's more risk of failure in self-organization, right? And
so we talked about safety and trust, right?
Safety and trust, and people like to know what their job is. Okay, so to be truly self-organized, the management have to take a big risk, and they have to give up control. And when you've had lots of control and lots of power, giving it over to somebody else is really, really hard, because your bottom line is your company's got to be profitable and you've got to make your products. And if you say, well, I'm going to delegate that to those guys over there, that don't turn up on time, they're always hanging around and chatting and blah, 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 that's difficult, isn't it? So how do you do that? I don't know, give them a profit share? Are you going to do that? So yeah, it's difficult for true self-organization. That's why true self-organization doesn't usually happens around a purpose and an imperative that's vitally vital. So yeah, I don't know how you motivate a team to self-organize and manage within that kind of environment unless you change the culture of the organization.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said with the parameters that you have, so it's a journey, right?
Yeah, it is a journey. It's that A to A. First, it's maximizing your self-management position, and then maybe for particular projects, quick projects, you might say, well, let's have a self-organizing team. Give them a project like Toyota do. Toyota give, they'll give a big room of people, say, well, you do this, you invent this, or work on this. And you've got all the resources and all the parameters and all the rest of it.
Okay, I have one more question. We have some people do not want to be given control. They want to be told what to do, while others self-organize well. Having both in one team can be very difficult.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so Karl, do you think that self-organized teams can just, at the beginning you said it happens, self-organization happens, but do you think that any, let's say, random individuals put together will form a self-organized team, or they need help? You said something like socio-technical engineering, but
so they need, what you need in theory, what you need to do is align people's goals with the purpose of the team. Okay, so those people that don't want control, what do they want? Okay, what do they want, and how can you incorporate them into that team and get them to work towards that goal? So do we know what their motivation is?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that would be the question there. So is there an imperative for them to do it, other than if you don't do it, we're going to get rid of you? So is there that? But maybe they're not engaged with the product enough. Maybe it's not their product. Maybe they don't feel it. So you've got to sort of look back at the triangle and see which parts are applying to that person and which parts are not applying. So
yeah,
Yeah.
There's also one more nice thing. Mike On explained that. I read it somewhere. He was saying something like, not each Agile team will self-organize in the same way. You know, some of them will have 2 or 3 people that will have some kind of leadership, you know, in that team, and it will function for them. It's still a, you know, kind of self-organization, right?
People,
If it works for them.
yeah, if it works for them, it's fine. And the key thing is always the outcome. How you get to the outcome is down to the team, I think. But again, I do think the alignment of people's individual goals, if we know what they are, that's key. Finding out what those are, what are the triggers, and what are the levers. And maybe they need leaders within the team to do that. But then, yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I have 100 questions. Let's hear someone else. Guys, do you have some other questions, comments? Okay, if not, I'm pleased to ask more. What about HR and hiring? So when we are, let's say, hiring people for Agile, for Scrum teams, and when we are thinking about creating a self-organized team, do you see that, I don't know, what is the role of Agile, of a Scrum Master, of the rest of the team? I know there some companies, for example, they have their hiring processes for all team members to be present on interviews and to choose people for their team.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is that groups in organizations, if they're well established, tend to hire people that are like themselves.
Mm-hmm. So no diversity.
Yeah, so that's one problem. So you probably need
Yeah.
a variety of different talents and individuals. And often, you know, you don't see the talent, the capability of an individual until they're in a team situation. So I think you need some kind of mechanism of hiring that allows you to see people.
What's missing in the team, actually, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you might think, well, I need someone to do this in this team, but then you've got to think, well, do I? Because what do I need? Do I need someone that's going to work for the company, or someone that's going to work for a particular team and fill a role in a particular team when I may retach that team at another point? So yeah, so what are you hiring? Are you hiring?
Yeah, for a project or for a company.
The best coder in the world, or are you hiring someone that's going to get on with the team?
Yes, they say that the teams that are, constituted like that with the similar people, they rarely have conflicts, and they resolve all their conflicts very fast. But because they don't have all the alternatives and options in front of them, they are all looking at the, one perspective.
So my question would be, why is that a good thing?
No, it's not a good thing. They have limited number of options,
Yeah, of course, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I misunderstood. Okay.
Okay, guys, anyone else would like to ask something? I don't know. I would like to hear if someone has some good experience working in self-managed or self-organized teams.
I never worked in such a team, so for me it is a fairy tale, believe me. So
Holy Grail.
Yeah, what? Never, ever, never even, not in work, somewhere else, for example?
No, never.
Home or
hobby or
something.
And
like that.
I'm this year 30 years in business, so
okay.
Never worked in self-organized team.
The best self-organizing team I ever worked in was when I was about 14 years old, and every year in England we have this festival thing where we build a bonfire.
Oh.
All the kids in my side of the village would build a bonfire, and all the kids on the other side of the village would build this bonfire. And for a week we self-organized. Some of us fetched wood, some of us went round houses to ask for wood, some of us built it, some of us guarded it to stop the other gang from burning it down before the night of bonfire night. Guy Fawkes, that thing. So, but that was the most self-organization.
Okay, in such cases, I was involved, but never on my
In business.
real, yes, in business, yes.
Yeah, good example of self-organized groups are, for example, study groups at universities or high schools. So when people gather, you know, to work on a project or study or something like that, that they usually.
Another example.
Another example is, for example, when it was, you know, poplava, how it is called?
Flood.
Flooding, when we are all, you know, put some sand in the bags, you know, and helping, you know, to send it to the river banks. So basically, this was the self-organizing team, but volunteering, not business.
Yeah, but there was an imperative, there was a goal.
Yes.
And there were rules, I'm sure, about how you fill the sand and how you move it.
Yes.
So also recently at work, we had a project, and I've got another paper I'm going to write called "Do Bad Managers Make Good Teams?" Okay, because there was this. They were writing this paper, and it seemed that they were all very excited. You know, they'd all worked together brilliantly, blah blah blah. But the guy leading it, he said to himself, he said to all of us when I asked him the questions, he said, "Yeah, but I'm a really bad manager. I didn't really manage them. I just gave them a goal and a direction," which to me was perfect self-organization, because he realized he wasn't very good at managing. He didn't do any managing. He just said, "This is where we need to get to, guys." And everybody else really enjoyed themselves. But it was for a brief time, only a short period, and then they disbanded. So
he is not micromanager, but he's a manager.
no, he was absolutely useless at managing. He absolutely couldn't manage anything, couldn't manage his way out of a paper bag. But you know, he was so laid back, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He abdicated from control, which is interesting.
I abdicated in my house from control, but on business, no.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have more questions? Let's see.
Well, I would like to say that for me, I am trying to improve the self-organizing part in the company. I have written the guidelines for months, even a few versions, so that we can up the productivity of our teams. And there are people that use them quite well, and we just give them a few guidelines of which we want to have a feature or something, and then it's all up to them. They organize themselves quite well and they manage their time quite well. For others, it seems like they don't kind of want to do that. They want to be given specific details of what they need to do, and that for me is really frustrating, because it sounds like we are not on the same page. And also what I'm trying to improve is to get, because I'm a product owner, to get a little bit of the control from the directors and the owner of the company. Because as I specified in the earlier games, I am quite, I said that we needed more human resources, and they know that very well, but they're not, in this time, they're not doing anything to improve that aspect. And by not improving that aspect, they are slowing down the whole team and us, me and my colleague, as product owners. So they are relying on us to do something, and then again, we cannot do that because we are without the resources. So I'm 4 months now, and the months in the future, I'm trying, I will try to improve that productivity of our company, because I want to do that. That's the whole reason. So that's my aspect on.
Yeah, it's very difficult to make a cultural change like that if the culture of the organization is not really on board with it as well, you know, or not giving you the resources to do. Yeah.
Some are, some aren't. So I'm trying to improve that the parts which aren't. That's the whole point of me. I've been in this company for about a year and 3 months, and I'm doing quite well, although not as fast as I wish to improve things, but I hope I will slowly get there.
And yeah, it's always important as well to not, what I call it, getting lost in the puzzle. Don't get lost in the puzzle. So it's always important to look back at where you started and where you are now, and you may not think you've come very far, but you probably actually come quite a long way. You've done quite a lot, I would imagine. And we tend to forget because we don't really celebrate our wins. And you probably had lots of little wins along the way. And it sounds like, you know, you're on the cusp of going on to greater things. But, you know, so it's important to reflect back and think, you know, well, yeah, well, look where we were a year ago and where we are now. You know, and those things are important to recognize, I think.
Thank you.
Well done, you, is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
I actually have a question for Georgia, because I've been dealing with a similar situation in my previous career, with providing guidelines and providing, you know, like coaching and training, what should be done and how it should be done. But what about following up on that? Because I think that this part is usually missing in companies. We provide a lot of, you know, guidelines, procedures, explanations, trainings, and then what do we do? You said some people, they are not on board, or some teams. What should we do with that? Probably provide some help or feedback, or different kind of expectations, or, you know, how to align people who are, even you provided the guidelines and everything, and they are simply not responding.
Currently, the problem that I am having is that the people that are a little bit higher than me in the hierarchy are not going through the guidelines as they should. And they were the ones that asked for the guidelines, and I have been working on the guideline. It's my own decision to help and improve the productivity of the team and the company. But while the other teams are following the guidelines quite nicely, I have a little bit of a difficulty with the higher-ups, who ask for the guidelines but are not following it quite the right way.
So they are not letting go of control.
Yes. But you can't have, you know, changing in the company without their, you know, support, the real change of the you know, company. So basically, I can only suggest you to try to first work with them, with the management, to try to explain them how it will be, you know, for them good, and then try to reapply, you know, for a team, because you really need full support for management up, you know, in order to change, you know, something in the company. It is my opinion, sorry.
Yeah, yes, you're right. It's currently that I'm doing that, but it's really slow on the higher-ups side.
Try
so I'm getting frustrated because of that.
Try to invite them to some of these meetups, you know, maybe Scrum Wednesday or here again. Try to you know, to give them, you know, opportunity to hear something else, you know, from a other experience from a people. So maybe try. Maybe someone, you know, will join us and hear something, you know, different and open minds.
I think one of the issues is it's very difficult for people to give up power and control, and the way that power and control is vested in the organization of the company. So really, when you put Agile into it, you're sort of breaking that apart. And
you have to offer an alternative, because if you're taking something away from them, you have to offer them something else, you know, otherwise they will feel that they are losing everything.
Yeah. And in 3 years' time, when the company is totally self-managing, you won't need any managers.
But they can do some other stuff. Of course, they don't have to, look at operational level tasks and whatnot.
More interesting, yeah.
Yes, more interesting. Offer them something more interesting, yeah.
And that goes back. I mean, even if they did, if you played the chairs game with them. So in the chairs game, when you can do it live, in a real space, in the chairs game, in the second part of it, what does the manager do? Nothing. Or that it frees up the manager to do other things. So that's quite a nice illustration, about you don't need to manage all the time. You can do more important things with your vast salary and time. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Alex has got his hand up. Alexandra, sorry.
Yes, hello. I would like to give you one example, and it's actually related to the previous story. I was managing a team of internal audit. So you can say that we have lots of independence. Let's say that the other teams or management are not interfering in our work, and I tried to give them more independence. Let's say, okay, if we have our own plan, if we know what to do, let's try to help people to self-organize. And at the beginning, they were all delighted. Let's say, okay, we will do something new. They have more role, more. They will contribute more. And then what happens from the, when you see through the time, what's happening with more organization, independence comes more actually something that they are that they have to they are actually responsible for something. So they were actually trying to leave this work. They would like to be self-organized, but with the more organization and self-organization comes more responsibility. Yeah. So can you give us some examples about changes in the behavior of the teams, especially if they're working for a long time together? What I was doing, I was actually always inventing some motivation, for them. Okay, let's do this, or praise them for something, or to change, or to, I don't know, say that they did something new, and something like that. So what is your experience about the changes in behavior within the teams, within the team members?
I think what you get is a lot of fighting to start with. It's this storming, norming stuff. So I think, yeah, it's difficult to get people to do things, because, as you say, because they've been acculturized to just doing their job and doing their thing, and not having that responsibility for what if it goes wrong. And so I think it's the role of management to build that culture where you allow people to fail. But that's difficult in the climate that you're in. And is there space for that to happen? So you've got to think, well, if we're really going to do self-organization or self-management or give people more control, how do we support them in having that control? How do we allow them to learn about what that means to have that responsibility? And equally, are we rewarding them for having that responsibility? Yeah, so we can't just expect people to have all the responsibility all of a sudden with no reward for it. So I think it takes a whole reconfiguration of a company to implement these things, and a supportive environment. And it's got to be a philosophy, and everybody's got to buy into that philosophy.
Yes, and I was actually disappointed because they were always looking for something new to tell them, to say them big thank you, to motivate them again. And this is actually proving the theory that you mentioned before about it is natural to things to fall apart.
Yes.
You have to, yes, you have to, you need to have a very big goal, which is also motivation for the team.
Yeah, and people have got to buy into that, and it's got to
Yes.
align. One of the management tasks is alignment. So how do you align those, company objectives with individual objectives, with team objectives, and all that layering? And you need to have that supportive environment, that says, well, yes, you are part of this company, and your role is vital in this company, and we're going to reward you in this company. We're not just going to keep paying you the same wage for doing more things. You see what I mean? But that's a cultural shift in the way people think about that, the way the whole organization is configured, and it's a big risk. Because if you don't need to take the risk, it might be that your company fails eventually, but maybe your company continues as it is and doesn't grow. Because a lot of these ideas are unproven. As we say, they're the holy grail, or they're like, this myth of the beautiful company that does everything right. And that's never the case. There's a lot of work involved in doing this. There's more work. I always liken it to problem-based learning. When you switch from lecturing in education to problem-based learning, and in problem-based learning, it can fail spectacularly straight away. Because the students don't like it, because they want you to tell them stuff. They don't want to do things for themselves. So it's a similar kind of situation, and there's a big risk because they might fail their exams, and they're paid a lot of money for them. So there are all that. The whole cultural thing is important, no matter what the context you're in. So yeah. So it's,
and you have to give them a self example, actually, because I also saw that they were looking at me, how am I presenting and finishing things, and when you set the standard how things should be done, then actually they're trying to reach it like it is normal, let's say, not that they're extra trying or something else. This is maybe help might help to give them the self example.
Yeah, and you've got a whole you've got a whole mindset and conditioning to not work in a self-organized way. The whole of society is based on, competition and standards of performance. So, to work collaboratively and work together towards a common goal is not really, it's not a thing that's established within the culture of the society. Or it may have been in Yugoslavia in the past, maybe, I don't know, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, but when we start talking about this, it starts from school. You're working individually for your own grades. You're not working in a team. You don't have common goals. So it's hard to break that mentality.
Problem with standards and standardization, because when you get standardization, which was ideal for the industrial age, everybody's working to the same standard. So the only way to differentiate yourself is by competing.
But
yeah,
we have it in former Yugoslavia. For example, we have something, children was taught in the base school that, for example, they have a action of collecting old newspapers, and this is a really good thing. Children were working not hard, but working. For example, we have in school household. We are learning to bake, to cook and everything. And it was all together, all organized team. Nobody tell us you do this, you do that. So basically we have a really good education, and children was taught, from in base school to work together in self-organized team or self-managed.
Where we implemented the problem-based, team-based learning in when we did it in Palestine, it was amazing. The things that the kids did, they started making kids, they were teenage college university students. They were doing electronical engineering, and they'd never done it hands-on. It had always been lectures. So they started doing it hands-on, and then they started making power supplies. And now they've set up a makerspace. The ones that have left university, they've set up this makerspace where they take old computers to bits and make things for the community and do all sorts of things. And they've all done that self-organized, because they started doing this problem-based learning. So it can, you know, culture can change.
Yes.
But there, I mean, in Palestine, there's an imperative because they haven't got any stuff, so they have to make their own. So there's that goal imperative. You know, the triangle is still active in that respect.
Guys, I don't want to interrupt you, but we are out of our time. Maybe we can ask Karl if he has more time to answer a few more questions, or we can leave for the next time.
I'm easy either way. I have nowhere to go. I'm locked in my room, as I have been locked in this room for a year almost.
But on April 12, I know that it is lockdown is down. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yes. It's slowly being released.
Yes.
Hopefully, in
the second phase.
the next 2 weeks, I'll get my injection, and that should be good.
I got yesterday my second dose, so yes. It was miracle to want to got this shot with my broken leg, but it was okay. Oh,
fantastic.
get it done. Teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-organized teamwork.
This is an example I use actually, is because often my students ask me, well, you know, this person isn't, and this is a team thing, isn't it? It's a problem of teams. This person isn't working as hard as everybody else. They're not pulling their weight, you know, they're not doing it right. So I say, well, the only thing I'm bothered about is whether you produce the product at the end. How you get there is part of the learning, how you work together to get there. So I use the example of the vaccine. So I say, who's most important? Is it the person who invented the vaccine? Is it the person who manufactures the vaccine? Or is it the van driver that takes the vaccine to the doctor? Or is it the nurse or the volunteer that puts it in your arm? And the answer is everybody's important. Everybody's equally important in that product.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my little speech that I give my students. And they go, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? So we'll think about it, you know, think about it. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Karl. Thank you, Karl. Okay, I think we can slowly close today's meetup. Thank you, Karl, so much for this insights and for a fabulous presentation and for making me dance. And thank you guys for being part of our meetup. Hopefully we'll see you next time. And feel free to propose some topics that you would like to see, maybe in this chat or on next meetup. So see you all soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Havala. Is that right? Havala. Thanks, everyone.